There you go. There's I can't really say a perfectly working remote ID module. I can say it costs $49 for sure. I can say I got it working, but not totally. And I really suspect that the problem is firmware isn't really up to snuff yet. Oops. It lost contact with GPS is there for a second. I'm looking at my ground control station across the room and it's going from 0 sats locked to 4. Right now it's at 0. Now it's at 4. So the module starts flashing white every 3 seconds. That's for normal flight. I wish the sats would go up, but at least it's hopefully staying at 4 now. Anyway, I think the firmware is what's holding me up on going any further. But I've found so many workarounds that I think I'm where I need to be and can almost ready to make my how-to video. And some of it really works well for me. I don't do scripts, so I'll probably make some screw-ups again. People that know me know I give you what I am and just try to help people keep from stressing. When I got out of the Navy after learning electronics, I used my GI Bill to get programming. So starting 1975 on, everywhere I went, I was both the, 75, 76, 77, 78, I was probably in school learning programming. Early 80s, I went to work for Tandy before Microsoft even existed. Bill Gates was still in grammar school. So everywhere I went, working on computers and electronics, everybody knew I knew both the hardware and the software side. So I try to share that experience with people. At one point with Tandy, I was an ATSO, Area Training and Support Operation. There were 4 of us on the East Coast, east of the Mississippi. One in Florida, me in Charlotte, North Carolina, another one in Maryland, another one in Maine. And in our little quadrants, we were responsible for all the hardware and all the software people underneath us. And it just got worse after that. When I quit with Tandy and went to other local computer shops, of course, they always made me service manager and always made me support manager too. I got to manage both departments instead of having both a service manager who could say, I don't know nothing about programming, and a programming manager who could say, well, I don't really know much about hardware. So I've been whipped around a lot in life, and I just don't want to see other people suffering from all that crap. But I'm too old to sit and make scripts, etc., etc., etc. So you're just going to have to take me like I am. I'm just trying to help. So let me show you what I've come up with on this. First thing, I'm just going to show you how the app works on the phone. And here's the Drone Tag app. And you can see my little symbol on the screen right now. It's drifting around. Everybody knows how hard to plane when you're not flying and it's not got inputs. The perimeters drift all over the place. And if I touch we can see right now, if I touch up here, we can see I've got good GPS, excellent Bluetooth right now. The battery, I don't think that works. That's not one of the perimeters they want it to pass. If you come out front to the map, you can touch the symbol, and you can see there, this is what it's going to show anybody that sees me flying. Little information there, but now if you show details, there's all the perimeters. They're basically allowing people to see about a flight with a remote ID. The takeoff point, That's not quite right there. Takeoff altitude 0 feet. Oh, the 7 miles an hour there is just the flight controller drifting. Altitude there is drifting a little bit. That's about correct for this location. We're up about 2,200 feet. And the rest of it's just exactly what they say. They're not going to show much. They're supposed to show your, with 6 things, wasn't it? Your takeoff point, your altitude, your speed, your direction, and a number. And that would be the 1-5, whatever it is up there that people would turn you in with. So that's how the app works and shows it working as it should. So not being able to just snap that in line with my telemetry radio and have it work basically boiled down to one little bitty thing. And let's see, I think it's in these notes. Right there it is. First of all, I went in and found the pinouts for the MRO X2.1 controller I was using. And I looked at it on the screen here instead of taking a multimeter and wringing out that cable. Hey, I'm lazy. And right here's the telemetry port on that particular flight controller, and here's the pin out, pins 1 through 6 across through here. So pin 1, 5 volts on the input of this module. That's exactly where it wants VCC. Pin 2 is transmit. Module is RX. Perfect. Pin 3 is RX. Module is transmit. So we got our transmit, and receives perfectly cross there. So it works. Same thing with clear to send and request to send. Pin 4 is clear to send, so pin 4 on this side of the cable is request to send. Pin 5 is request to send, so pin 5 on this side is clear to send, and then 6 is ground. So there's really wasn't anything wrong with my cable. I figured out pretty quick. Darn it. That's when I kind of broke out those old Pixhawks I had and tried to attack it that way, which didn't work real good. I did 6 or 8 hours worth of stuff today flailing around. And seriously, it just comes down to one little problem, it looks like. This little sentence right here says that flow control is currently not available in the firmware. So I came in here and went down to board serial, BRD_serial. Technically, if I don't put the 1 after it, we'll see them all. It's my first serial connection on the flight controller. So this parameter right here, it had been set to a 1, enabling clear to send and request to send on that port. I did that months ago when I was working with that thing. At first today, I just disabled it, put it to a 0, and the thing started working. I was playing with other parameters too. Finally, after I got it working and just played with several different little things with it, I came back in here and ultimately set that back to auto, which was the default. I don't remember 2 or 3 months ago why I changed it to a 1 long before the remote ID module came in the door. I only ordered the remote ID module like May 30th of this year. Came from Czechoslovakia. So both 0 disabled works and auto works. 1 do not work because, as the documentation says, it doesn't work in the firmware. So the flight controller is going to send a request to send out to that device, and it's never going to get a clear to send back.
So it's just going to sit there until it times out. They're not going to communicate, which, if you've seen my previous videos on this, I just had a red light. How it works, after a fashion again. Serial 1 is where it's connected. Serial 1 protocol has to be a 2, Mavlink 2. And they suggest the baud rate be 115,600. 115,200, isn't it? Yeah, 115,200. I've got it set right now at 57,600 because for hours today I tried to go above what I've just shown you and connect that telemetry radio in and get it talking to my ground control station. And so far I've been unsuccessful. If clear to send, request to send don't work in the firmware, there's a possibility the Mavlink or pass-through, it would be Mavlink pass-through, wouldn't it? Because telemetry data here is full Mavlink. So the pass-through to the telemetry radio, I don't think it's working right either. I tried to flash or reprogram using the mission planner, reprogram a couple of the radios to be 115,200 baud. Well, you can set the software up into them like that with mission planner. It'll let you set it, but I don't think it works because I don't think the hardware is actually capable of it. Now I do have the CUAV radios here, which are both, I still hope to get out in the field and test those because they're 1 watt telemetry radios. Same 1 watt as Dragon Link. Should be able to operate comparably, in my humble opinion, and be miles and miles of telemetry. I've been a crazy guy for telemetry for 10 years. A couple of my viewers really give me down the road all the time about my just stubbornness for having telemetry. Well, it's on all my platforms, so when this module came in the door in the past 30 days or so, I was ready for it as far as wiring. The CUAV I think will go to 23400 baud, or might be 256. It'll go twice as fast. That should be 23400. That's right. That's the next one up right here. But I think the hardware on the CUAV one, not only it being a high watt output telemetry radio, it's also, I think it's capable of that higher baud rate. I don't think the little MRO was, and another one I had here that I tried to program up and pass the Mavlink through to have a full system back, just didn't work. Didn't work. When I found out, figured out that just wasn't going to work, I came back and I dropped this to 57,600 because what could have been going on, and I tried to rule out by this, was unless there's a buffer in that remote ID module, you're not going to be able to take 115,200 in the front of it and only pass 57,600 out the back of it for a long, long time. Depends on what your telemetry rates are, and they're controllable in Ardu Pilot. I don't know about iNav or any other thing like that. So I dropped it back down to 5,700 here and proved that the baud rate isn't as important as turning off that clear to send, request to send is. But it still didn't let me have the baud rate on the input side of the RF remote ID module at 57,600 and the output side at 57,600. Going into a radio I know works at 57,600 perfectly without that module in between them. I got some of those modules so bricked up I had to go to my old fallback. Mission Planner would not reprogram them. It'd come up with won't go into command mode. I had to use Q to ground control to flash them back to their defaults. I had two of them, a 915 MRO and a 433 MRO that was in the platform that I got to a point playing with them. I was also playing with turning clear to send and request to send off inside those radios. Got them so messed up I had to reflash them back to 0. They're all working again now. So let's see. So this right here is the most important thing. BRD_SER. In fact, for this one, it's SER1. So you can get it down to that. Make that a 0 or a 2. Now, because clear to send, request to send doesn't work, and the CUAV telemetry radios do not have clear to send, request to send lines, inputs, outputs. Not on the case as it is. I might be able to open that up and find that they may exist on the circuit board itself that I could wire to, but I haven't gone that deep into those radios. I'm just anxious to test them at 1 watt, see if they work just as good as Dragon Link, that I could fly Crossfire and CUAV radios and just be that city for miles. Because they don't work right now. The firmware doesn't work with clear to send, request to send. I've kind of been alleviated from the fact that most of my flight controllers, being in this fashion, only have one UART that's got clear to send and request to send associated with it. I was going to be forced to put this, and this is where my telemetry, these 6 wires go over to all my Dragon Links to send MavLink over to them. I was going to do the same thing with this remote ID module and just put it in line with that on those platforms that I have Dragon Link. I have 4 platforms with Dragon Link on them. Can't find any Dragon Link receivers for sale right now, or I'd have more. So seeing that clear to send and request to send don't work, I'm kind of freed up. I could still use these 4 wires and use this UART and make that remote ID module work as it is. It would work off of a different UART. I would just tell this UART that it's sending out MAV2 data. And I could leave these 6 wires actually to the little MRO telemetry radio that's in the airplane right now and have them pick up ground here and 5 volts over here if I wanted to, and then pick up these 2 lines for the UART, and I would have my remote ID module working off of UART 1 here and these supply pins, and I would still have my telemetry radio working off of these 6. In the case of the MRO, I can do the same thing. I've got a free UART on it. So I'm not going to go a whole lot deeper into how this works right now because it's not my how-to video. This is just kind of an FYI. Module does work now. I find it to be very, very limited in range before I even close it up inside the foam. I cannot walk outdoors. It won't work through the basement floor up into the room right above this. I really, this module compliant. It ain't going to say too much to too many people, but when the cops show up where it says I'm flying from, and well, son, I looked at that plane myself. It don't have a remote ID module on it. Well, sir, look at it again. What do you see now? I can't tell you why over in that area you were looking at it in, it didn't work. Perhaps there's a high level radiation source there. You know, I know some friends of mine up near the hospital where they have all the CAT scans and stuff. They've had some really bad problems with induced noise into their CAT 10 network cables. So you might have been near a high noise source there, but as you can see, did you look again before you stopped the car and walked up to me before I landed it to talk to you? You can see it that whole time, I'm sure. I just need to put enough doubt in their minds. I'm not going to say too much more. The FAA will use it all against me someday. Technically, I think it's compliant. Enough to keep me from being fined. I'm at least going to get what everybody's going to get. Everybody's all up in arms like they're going to cut your head off the first time they catch you. No, they're going to educate you the first time they catch you. They're going to tell you how it's supposed to work, see what you're doing, try to help you. Boy. So it all boils down to clear to send, request to send. When I make my how-to videos, I'm going to cut up that 6 conductor cable and cut 4 wires out of it. I'm going to cut 2 off of it. I'm going to have 4 ground voltage transmit and receive that I'm going to hook to a flight controller with a 4-pin DuPont connector, I hope, the MRO one. And I'm going to have the remote ID module working perfectly off of one UART, and I'm going to have my telemetry radio. Well, it's working again. I just plugged it back in without the remote ID module in it. And I will make that video like I make all of mine. It'll be A to Z, top to bottom. The red wire goes here, like I do for all my how-to. Now, we'll also in the future have to do, what are we going to do with this creature now? It's $49 and it works. In my mind, it works. Will it be functional in the sky? I personally don't think it'll be seen at 400 feet. They can point their phone at it all they want. But closer by, it's going to work. Until there's some other kind of ruling, I think I'm going to be getting in trouble the least of most people if I fly it. Don't know yet that I can move it from platform to platform. I've got 14 airplanes, 12 to maiden. Only 2 have been flown ever so slightly. I played with quads and hexes for years. Only did my first RC flight of an airplane December of 2021, I think it was. As a matter of fact, it was December 31st, the last day of the year. And because of health problems, I ain't got to do more than 10 or 12 flights since then. All my airplane type platforms are still just barely out of maiden, 2 of them. Nano Talon is, and one of the mini Talons. They've both been auto-tuned, airspeed sensors calibrated, everything's ready to go. And I've got like 12 more sitting over there that I built over the last 2 years that never been flown. So we'll see soon how all this works in practicality. I'm not going to buy 14 of these $49 remote IDs. Well, I certainly don't want to. I'm not going to. His famous last words are, isn't it? That's $700. That's a whole new 7-inch platform with batteries. They said it was going to be $49. They said you could move it from platform to platform back when they brought all this out. They haven't said otherwise except for the Part 107 people. You got to put them on a different one on every platform just because you're Part 107. Got to register every one of your registrable platforms for a separate registration fee if you're Part 107. That's the biggest reason I ain't Part 107. Well, the other reason is people offer me money for my help on this channel all the time, and I say, no, can't take it, not Part 107. It's true. That's the biggest reason I'm not Part 107. I'm retired. I just want to fly these things and have fun and pass on a little knowledge to people to keep them from having a heart attack over all the crap. So I'm going to go now. There's really much more I could say about this module at this time. You choose if you want to fly one. I still haven't totally chose if I'm going to fly it or not, but it works 100% for my needs right now. Thank you guys.